Hello, Revolve Bible Church. Pastor Jake here. Thanks for tuning in to this series of 5-Minute Connects. Now, before we get underway, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell to be alerted when biblical content is coming your way. As a church, we hope and pray that it has been food for your soul and an encouragement to you, especially during the COVID-19 time of life. Now, for this week, I want to look at one question, the most important question that you will ever be asked, and that is, what is the gospel? What is the gospel? That is a question, certainly now in the pandemic we're in, that we need to not only ask ourselves, but we need to know the answer to. And we find that answer in Paul's letter to the Romans. The book of Romans is really the premier book that, in a robust way, explains and articulates the gospel. And we see that even from the get-go of this letter. Chapter 1, verse 1, as Paul's thesis as the author of this letter, he makes it very clear. The big idea here is the gospel. Verse 1 of chapter 1 says, Paul, a bondservant of Christ Jesus, called as an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God. Paul's wanting the Romans to know, this is what my life consists of, the gospel. And being an apostle, a sent one, to proclaim the gospel. The word gospel just means evangelion in Greek. It means good news. The gospel is the greatest news, the most joyful news, as well as being the most profound news in existence. It is also, according to verse 1, God's news, the gospel of God. It is His. It belongs to God, coming down from heaven to earth. And we also notice really the substance of the gospel as well. If we can sum up the good news in one word, it is Jesus. Verse 3, concerning His Son. And we're going to, over the course of the next couple of days, articulate and go over several components of the gospel, but at its core, it is about Jesus Christ, the God-man, who has come to earth to save us from our sin. And we also find, going down further into chapter 1, verse 14, who the gospel is intended for. Paul says, I am under obligation both to Greeks and to barbarians, both to the wise and to the foolish. It's for Gentiles, not just for people of the Jewish ethnicity, but also those who are non-Jewish, people from every walk of life, every tribe, tongue, and nation, people out of those walks of life and out of those spheres are those who the gospel is intended for. And what an encouragement. If you're here and you're watching and you're not a Christian, if the gospel for you is not just good news, but new news, this is for you. And I invite you to come with us and journey with us through the book of Romans, that you may not only understand what the gospel is, but that you yourself may be a partaker of it. And for those of you here, Christians, who may feel like my family member, my friend is too far gone as it relates to ever trying to become a Christian, may this series greatly encourage you, as you will find out that that is not the case. No one is too far out of reach from the grace of God, even though they be dead in their sin. So I invite you to join us. I hope that this series blesses you, especially tomorrow as we look at the holiness of God.